Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team, with Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer joining us. And Joe, last week, the Panthers beat the Cardinals in the first round of the playoffs, 27-16. Now they're headed to Seattle this weekend. Joe, this team was 3-8-1 at one point this season. They won 4 regular season games in a row, now 5, including last week. What's been the big turnaround with this Carolina Panthers team, who's now one of the last 8 remaining teams in the National Football League?
Well, they've finally kind of figured out things defensively. If you remember, this is a team that was sort of reeling early in the season with the loss of Greg Hardy in the wake of that domestic abuse scandal. And, he was a guy they franchise tagged. He was a Pro Bowl, 15-sack kind of guy. And they spent a good chunk of the season trying to, figure out what their defensive identity was. Fortunately, they have Luke Kuechly in the middle of that defense that sort of helped cure a lot of their ills. And then offensively, they needed Cam Newton to start playing better. He went through a stretch. Granted, they were he was playing behind an offensive line that during that 6-game losing streak used 6 different offensive line combinations. He got sacked 25 times during that stretch. And, once they got a little bit continuity on that offensive line, Cam, you could tell, you could see the confidence. He wasn't throwing off his back foot as much. He was staying in the pocket, going through his reads, and making the big plays that the offense needed from Cam Newton.
Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer with Armen and Levack on your home for New York Sports 104.5 The Team.
Joe, how is Cam Newton doing this? I mean, the guy, he's got a broken back. He just rolled over his truck like 2-3 times. How is he being this playmaker that we've known him to be when he's healthy?
Cam is a very tough guy. I mean, for anything you want to criticize Cam for, and he's certainly had some opportunities to invite criticism over the first 3-4 years here, but he has always answered the bell in terms of his toughness. I mean, the kid takes a pounding. It helps when you're 6'5", 245. I think that helped him recover a little faster from that car accident. And he was very, very fortunate in that deal. If he'd been in the passenger seat, Cam often has a kind of a personal assistant who drives him around. If that had been the case that day, Cam wouldn't be playing right now. The passenger side of that truck took the brunt of the damage. So he was very fortunate to walk out of there with a couple of minor fractures in his lower back. He missed the Week 15 game against Tampa Bay. But since then, he's been back and playing pretty well.
Where did Jonathan Stewart come from at running back? All of a sudden, he looks like it was 5 years ago.
Well, he came off the training room table. I mean, this guy couldn't stay healthy. He signed a big contract. I think it was in 2012. And it wasn't a toughness factor. I mean, he just had bad luck. He had battled some leg injuries. I think it was all leg injuries over the last 2 seasons. And he's healthy, and frankly, he's got fresh legs because of that. D'Angelo Williams had to carry the load for the last 2 years, and so it's almost like Stewart. Even though he's about 28 years old, it's like he's a guy 2 years younger because of those 2 seasons he missed for the most part. So I'm glad you brought that up because he has been very key in this renaissance, in this resurgence, if you will. He's had more yards over the past 5 games than anybody but DeMarco Murray, and including the playoffs, Stewart's probably overtaken Murray in that category, really running the ball well and helping the Panthers be a balanced offensive attack.
Joe, we're up here all going gaga over Odell Beckham Jr. You guys have a pretty impressive rookie wide receiver as well. What has Kelvin Benjamin brought to this team?
Size and a red zone target. He looks not quite as thick as Cam Newton, but they're really built very similarly. He's 6'5", maybe a few pounds lighter, and he's legit. I mean, it isn't like some of these guys come off of the college height and weights and they lose a couple inches, but he doesn't have quite the speed or the flair as Beckham. But, boy, he's been good. I mean, this is you guys remember, this is a franchise that decided to completely overhaul their receiving core during the offseason. They cut ways with Steve Smith, for a variety of different reasons. They did not re-sign Brandon LaFell, who went to the Patriots and had a good year. And part of that, the big part of that reason was Dave Gettleman, their general manager, saw in this draft it turned out to be exactly right. One of the deepest receiving classes in 10, 15 years. And the Panthers, even drafting 28th as they did, were able to grab a good one in Kelvin Benjamin.
Did that make up for the fans losing Steve Smith?
I think so. I mean, there's still a strong Steve Smith contingent here in Charlotte, obviously, for what he did for this franchise over a number of years. But what made up for it is the fact that they're still playing football in January. It wasn't always pretty, and for a lot of times it was real ugly. They went 2 months, guys, without a win. They had. Now, factored in that were 6 losses, but they also had a tie against Cincinnati, and then they had their off week in between all that. So they went from October 5th till early December without a win, and to still be playing football is pretty remarkable.
Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer joining us on 104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports with Armen and Levack. Panthers 27, Cardinals 16. That was the final over the weekend in the first round of the postseason. And Joe, how much of the Panthers' defensive dominance over the Cardinals was the Panthers' defense, and how much of it was the Cardinals' lack of offense? How much credit do you give to that Carolina D?
Yeah, I mean, you can't understate either of those factors. It was sort of the perfect storm for the Panthers, who, as I mentioned earlier, are playing very well defensively, but they got a huge break facing an 11-win Arizona team that, as you guys are well aware, was down to not only their third quarterback in Ryan Lindley, but a backfield by committee after the loss in early December of Andre Ellington to a sports hernia surgery. So it really played right into the Panthers' hands. It was really the same blueprint the Panthers followed in Week 17 at the Georgia Dome when they really blew out Atlanta to clinch this NFC South division that no one for the longest time seemed to want to win. They shut down the running game of both the Falcons and the Cardinals, made them one-dimensional, and it was impressive seeing them do it against Matt Ryan to get after him the way they did. But then, Ryan Lindley he didn't have a shot. And what happened, the end result was 78 total net yards for the Cardinals, lowest in NFL postseason history.
Now, Joe, when you look at the Panthers, you got the strong mobile quarterback, the stingy defense. Sounds a lot like the team they're about to play in Seattle. Do the similarities help them prepare, or is there just no way to prepare for Seattle?
Well, yeah, I think that does help prepare them, and the fact that they do a lot of zone read with Russell Wilson. The Panthers see that all training camp with Cam Newton, so that'll help. This is a team that's played Seattle very, very close for 3 years, but have not been able to get over the hump. They've lost all these games, I should point out, were in Charlotte, which that's probably the biggest factor of all, having to go face that 12th man in Seattle. But they lost these 3 games in Charlotte by a total of 13 points. Neither team scored more than 17 points in any of them, and I expect. It surprised me a little bit to see the opening line come out at 11 and a half points. I get about Seattle's home field advantage. Certainly wouldn't try to undersell that. But given the way the Panthers are playing defensively and the way these games with Seattle, I think it's a much better matchup for the Panthers than for instance, Green Bay, who I saw just walk all over the Panthers in middle of October up at Lambeau.
He's Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer. Panthers at Seahawks, Saturday night, 8:15 kick. And we'll be watching that from Graney Stout in downtown Albany. Come see us. And Joe, we understand that you have some family up here in Lake George. You're very familiar with the Capital Region, baby.
Hey, man, it was great to hear from an Albany station because I used to spend some summers up there on the Pilot Knob side of the lake, and a couple years ago took my own family up there. It's a beautiful part of the country, and really envious of you guys getting to enjoy that great natural beauty.
Well, Joe, let me know, man. I'll make some room on a boat for you for Log Bay Day.
Dude, I might just take you up on that.
Perfect.
Joe, let us know next time you're in the area. We may know of 1 or 2 watering holes, just maybe. Might be a chance.
That sounds great, guys.
Joe,
Hey, have a good New Year, and like I said, I may take you up on it.
Joe
Excellent.
Person of the Charlotte Observer. Joe, have a good time Saturday night, and here's to talking to you again in the next round. Thank you, my friend.
Sounds good. Take care.